on me, leave all of your things, yeah. You can stop at Gucci, stop at Louis V, yeah. Come on me, fly.
Hi guys, so welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week I thought I would do a full glute workout because obviously now I'm able to film whole workouts, whereas when I used to go to the gym, I'd be like, today I'm going to film this workout, and then I'd get there and I'd film like one exercise, then I'd get nervous and I wouldn't film the rest. So this is really good for me now because I get to just film it all. So I filmed a full glute workout. I'm gonna talk you through it, talk you through the exercises, why I'm doing them, like why I've structured them like that, why it's optimal for my current goals, and you know, just kind of explain how to design your own glute workouts as well, because I feel like sometimes it can be a bit of a minefield, and you know, there's so much information out there. It's like, well, what exercises should I do? Like, what will work for me? What won't? Like, you know, what's a waste of time and what isn't? So I thought I'd just kind of give my perspective, and you know, obviously I'm a coach, so just kind of talk through as well how I program other people's workouts, and like just, yeah, give you a bit of an overview. This is a bit of a different video, but I thought it might be quite helpful, so let's get into it. So first of all, we went in with cast glute bridges. I do like a hip thrust, but because I'm actually quite quad dominant, which is really annoying because I barely ever train quads anymore, like very rarely. But for some reason my quads just are always like blown up. Every exercise I do to do with legs, even if it's a glute one, my quads seem to get like a pump. So yeah, a bit annoying. So basically a few years ago, because of this, I swapped from doing hip thrusts to just cast glute bridges. It's rare that I do a hip thrust nowadays. Every now and then I might do like a hip thrust / cast glute bridge superset. But I often just do cast glute bridges, which is just basically a hip thrust but with a smaller range of motion. So you're just controlling the movement with your glutes, whereas with a hip thrust, when you reach like the bottom of the movement, your quads are engaging when you push back up. But with a cast glute bridge, you only lower your hips to the point where it's your glutes and your hips moving the bar. So you basically, the kind of cue that you always tell people with a cast glute bridge is that as you lower your hips down, you don't want your knees to start moving and caving towards you. When they start doing that, that's when you're entering the range of motion of your quads. So you want to basically try and keep it literally just your bum moving. So that is how you separate a cast glute bridge from a hip thrust. And I just find them personally more effective for glute growth because I don't want my quads to be taken over, to be honest with you. I want my glutes to grow. So yeah, we went in with cast glute bridges first, which is my like first compound movement. It's also a thrust movement. So when I'm designing my workouts and I'm trying to target my glutes, I like to go for a thrust movement, either first or second. So it varies. Obviously, sometimes I might do a hinge movement first, which we'll get into in a minute, but often I do my thrust movement first, especially with a cast glute bridge. That's my like compound. I want to get the most out of that. I want to have all my energy. I want to be able to put 100% into it. I want to get like the heaviest lifts, like the most reps. I want to really push myself, and because it's, you know, like really engaging my glutes, I really want to put all of my energy into that. So the reason we tend to do the heavier compound lifts first is because you want to be like less fatigued, because for example, the first exercise you do and the fourth exercise you do, you're going to have a very different level of energy, which is why you would put your heavy lifts at the start of the workout, and then your isolation movements like a glute kickback or an abductor or something like that, you put that at the end because it's not going to take as much energy as a heavy compound would. So that is why I would always put your heavier and, you know, more kind of engaging lifts first. So that is why I've gone in with the cast glute bridge first. So yeah, we did 4 sets of, like, I like to do my first set of kind of like 12 to 15 reps and kind of warm up into it, and then I like to do 3 working sets of normally 10 to 12, but I try to go till failure. So, you know, often I use my working set weight and that normally falls around 10 to 12, but if for example I only manage 9 or I manage 13, it's not the end of the world. As long as I'm really pushing myself and I'm getting the most out of it, then I'm happy with that. And you should, if you're really pushing yourself and training, you know, to your full potential, find that you get more reps in your first set than you do in your last set. So in your first working set, you might get 12, and in your last, you might only get 10 or 11. And that's normal because you should be fatiguing throughout your sets. If you get exactly 12, set 1, 2, and 3, then that suggests to me that you're not truly pushing yourself in that first set, because you shouldn't be getting the exact same number in set 1 and set 3, because your muscles should be fatiguing. So don't be alarmed if, you know, for example, you do get 12 reps in your first set and maybe 7 on your last. That's fine. If that is truly all you could manage, then that's good, because that means you've pushed yourself and you've got the most out of the movement. So yeah, we've done basically 1 high rep warm up set with a lower weight just to kind of get into it, and then we've done 3 working sets which roughly range between 10 to 12, which is your hypertrophy range. So that's perfect. And then our next exercise in this workout was Bulgarian split squats. So normally I would do, say for example, I was doing cast glute bridges and Romanian deadlifts, I would normally put them second, because again, they're a compound lift, they're heavy, I would want to put my maximum energy into it. But in this workout, I'm not doing Romanian deadlifts, I'm actually doing good mornings as my hinge movement. So I'm actually putting them third, because Bulgarian split squats for me are much more exhausting, they take more energy, and I want to really push and get the most out of them. They're obviously a unilateral movement, but they are also a compound. So I want to put more energy into my Bulgarian split squats than I do in my good mornings. I don't find good mornings as taxing. They're more of like a focus movement, you know, you've got to really control, engage your core, like hinge back. Whereas my Bulgarian split squats, that kind of driving up from the bottom, I need a lot of energy for that. So that is why I'm putting them second. So I did them on the Smith machine, which is actually new for me. I have recently been doing them free weight with dumbbells, but since we got the new machine, I've wanted to really try and utilize it and get the most out of it. So I did them on the Smith machine, which, like, it does feel really, really nice. I feel like for your glutes and hinging forward, it does make a huge difference. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that, and I'll definitely be doing that again. So with your Bulgarian split squat, you basically want to be leaning slightly forward to target your glutes. So if you're in a real upright position and you're just dropping straight down, then that's going to target more quads. If you're hinging your hips slightly forward and you're sinking into the movement that way, then you're going to kind of target more glutes because you're hinging. So that's engaging the glutes. So that is what the focus was here. I do find that with the Smith machine, it is easier to do that. Obviously, when you're using dumbbells or a barbell, you've really got to focus on balancing, so it can be a little bit harder to maintain that hinge. Whereas with the Smith machine, you're fixed in position. Once you're on that bar, like, that's going to hold you exactly where you are. So it is easier, in my opinion, on the Smith machine. However, because of the resistance, I find it harder to push up. So I can't lift as much on the Smith machine with Bulgarian split squats as I could with dumbbells, but that is just because, like I said, the resistance, it's harder to get that push back up on the Smith machine, but it's obviously really easy to go down and be controlled and balanced. So it's got its pros and cons, but yeah, so we've gone in with our unilateral movement, which I always try to look for in most glute workouts, whether that be a unilateral compound or a unilateral isolation. It's good to do single leg movements. So today I've actually done 2 in this workout, but one is an isolation and one is a compound. So yeah, that's your Bulgarian split squats. I did 1 kind of warm up set with about 12 reps each leg, and then I did 2 working sets at a heavier rate, which was 8 to 10 reps. So 3 sets, but I've got 2 like top sets essentially, which is where I'm pushing to my full potential, and I've got like a set rep range, and I'm really kind of, you know, figuring out what weight works for that. You have to spend, if you're a beginner, you have to spend a while in the gym just figuring out what you can actually lift and what that weight falls into with rep ranges. You know, you might pick up a pair of 5 kilogram dumbbells and find you can do 30 Bulgarian split squats per leg, like, so then you obviously will very quickly realise you can lift a lot heavier than that, because you want to be in a lower rep range, obviously depending on your goals. But if your goal is muscle growth at the moment and glute growth, then you're going to want it to be mostly in your hypertrophy range. So yeah, so we did our Bulgarian split squats, and then we moved on to good mornings. I actually do really like a good morning. I do. I don't know. I was going to say I prefer it with a barbell. I've always done them with barbells. Again, never really done them on the Smith machine, like, very often. But I'm really trying to utilise that machine because it was very hard to build. And obviously it is like the main kind of part of our gym. So I'm really trying to use it and kind of get the most out of it. But these did feel really, really nice. It took me a minute to kind of figure out where was best to stand and where felt best to like hinge back. But once I got that, like the engagement in my glutes was really good, because like when you come up to the top, you don't lose the kind of tension the same way you can with the barbell. So because you're just constantly under that resistance, it was like, it just really, really stayed. Like I could really feel it just like throughout the whole set. Like I could feel my glutes engage the whole way through, whereas sometimes with a barbell I feel them kind of disengage in between reps, especially if I have to take a minute to, you know, brace and like, you know, breathe. So yeah, I did really rate that on the Smith machine. It is a very strange movement. If you're not used to hip hinging, then I completely understand this might not be the best movement for you, but definitely recommend giving it a go, even if you do it with no weight at first and just get used to hinging yourself, and then eventually, you know, you will start to find it easier. But yeah, that's our hinge movement. So we've done a thrust, a unilateral and a hinge so far. So we are onto a winner. With good mornings, my best advice is just keep your core really tight. A lot of people let their core slack and then they end up just hunching over and bending over, and that is going to hurt your back. You want to be literally moving with your hips. So you're pushing your hips back as far as they go. When it gets to the point where they can't go any further and instead the movement shifts to your knees and you start to bend your knees, then you're not doing a good morning anymore, you're basically starting a squat. So you want to just make sure that you are leading the movement with your hips rather than your legs. And you don't want to be just bending over, you want to be pushing back. So just try and focus on that and just keep that core really tight, because that's going to really help you just like keep the form really nice, and it's going to avoid your back curving, and it's just going to make it so much smoother. So core tight, lead with the hips, and once you can't go any further with your hips, just come back up. But yeah, good mornings, definitely recommend. And then last but not least, one of the favourite movements is a glute cable kickback. There are many, many, many variations of these. There's so many, and I wouldn't say there's any right or wrong. Like, you know, just do what feels right for you. At the moment, I'm doing 2 different ones a week. So today I did the like bent over hinged version, but I also do these stood up kind of really isolating like angled kickback as well. So really depends what you find you prefer, or if you're like me and you want to do it twice a week, then you can do one of each. So that's really working for me at the moment. But yeah, so with this movement, this is an isolation, so it's isolating your glutes. Like there's no engagement of your quads, like you're not, you know, bending your knees or anything. Like it's literally just glute. So it's the same as like a bicep curl. When you do a bicep curl, it's just your bicep. So it's that type of thing, and it's good to do isolations as well, because obviously then you've got a nice variation of everything. You've got your compounds, you've got your isolations, you've got your unilaterals, like you've got a nice variation of movements. I think, you know, a big mistake that a lot of people make is they do like 5 heavy compound movements in one session, and it's like you can't possibly have the energy and the strength to get your full potential out of all of those heavy compounds in one session. So you're best off spreading them throughout the week and then pairing them with some unilateral movements and some isolations. So like in this session, I had 2 movements where I was like, that's going to really take, you know, a lot of oomph, so I'm going to put them first. And then I had 2 where it's like, they're going to be, you know, very focused and engaged, but they're not going to take as much energy from me or need as much energy from me as my first movement. So it's always good to think of that when you're planning a session. Some people do workouts the other way around and do like their isolations first. It really just depends on your personal preference. Again, there is no right or wrong, but for me personally, I've always found this way is my preference, and that is just how I will probably always plan my sessions. But yeah, so here we've got a glute cable kickback. So I've hinged over, keeping my back nice and straight. I'm using the machine for support and holding that with my hand. And then I am literally just having a bend at the knee and then driving back with my foot with the cable. And then when I'm reaching the top of the movement, I can't go any further without like bending my leg. I'm just slowly coming back and then repeating. So my best advice with these is just really think about where you want to target. Like, I feel like a lot of people forget like mind to muscle connection is a real thing. If you think about what you're doing and think about where you want to feel it, like you will get so much more engagement. Whereas if you're sat there or stood there doing some sort of exercise and you're thinking, oh, where should I get dinner tonight? Oh, like, you know, I need to do the washing when I get home. You're not going to be fully engaged. So always try and think to yourself exactly like, where am I working this? Where is this like, you know, like kind of challenging me? And I feel like the more you think about it, the more you feel it. And just remember, you're not meant to feel a burn in every movement. That burning sensation that you get sometimes, it's just a build-up of lactic acid. So to rely on that to like try and, you know, gauge your progress is really silly, because that sometimes happens and it sometimes doesn't. So if you're not feeling a burn, it doesn't mean you're not doing it right. However, if you are feeling any pain, like back pain or, you know, just any kind of unusual strain, that's a suggestion you might be doing it wrong. So always, you know, look for technique videos online, like read up on it, you know, message anyone that, you know, you think might be able to help you. Like, just always try and educate yourself before just jumping into things that you're not sure of, because injury just isn't worth it. Like, I promise you, it's really not. So yeah, we've ended with our isolation. It's only 4 exercises. That workout will probably take you max 50 minutes, 45 minutes maybe. I think another massive mistake I know I made when I first joined the gym was I thought I had to be there for like 2 hours at a time, and I did not make as much progress as I make now doing like 45-50 minute sessions. So sometimes less is more, especially if you're doing like quality over quantity. Obviously, you know, if you're doing 4 exercises but you're not putting 100% into them and you're just kind of, you know, going through the motions, moving the weight, but it's not really challenging you, then yeah, you're probably not going to progress that much. But if you're actually putting 100% into those 4 exercises, making sure you're progressively overloading, you know, focusing on your technique, slowing it down, you're going to see great results. And it also allows you to just focus on them every single week, you know, for a nice period of time and progress on them, rather than switching your workout up every week, because that's not very optimal either. So just try and, you know, have a variation. But I'd say, like, for example, what I would do is I'd do this workout once a week, and then I'd do another leg day once a week as well, maybe with a slightly different variation of movements. And then, you know, I'd just repeat them for maybe like 6 to 8 weeks, unless I really, really love them. If I really love them, I might do them for 12. And just keep repeating them until I, you know, feel like I've really got the most out of that split. And it's the same with, you know, upper body and everything like that. Like, just keep rinsing and repeating that same split until you feel like you've got the most out of it and you'd like a change. But yeah, don't change things up every week, because if you're looking for like significant growth, the basics are where it's at. There's so many overcomplicated things online. Like, honestly, your best results are just going to come from doing the boring basic compound movements like a hip thrust, a squat, a bench press, an RDL. Like, they are going to be your foundational movements. So try and trust that, because I feel like there's a lot of overcomplicated, weird machine stuff nowadays online, and you really don't need to worry about it if your goal is just growth. So yeah, that is how I would structure, or how I do structure, my glute workouts, and the same for my clients. Like, I'm always thinking the exact same thought process with them. And the same as if, like, say for example they train 3 times a week and they're on a full body split, then it's the exact same. I'd split their compounds throughout their 3 workouts, and they'll be at the beginning so that they obviously can get the most out of them, and then fill the rest of the workout with, you know, unilateral movements, isolations, and just kind of, you know, try and spread it out throughout the week. Because the best thing about training 3 full body days a week is that you can essentially, as long as you've got like a rest day in between them, you can essentially hit upper and lower 3 times a week. Obviously, you won't have as many movements per session as you would if you did an upper lower split, but you can, you know, train legs essentially 3 times a week, and arms and upper body, like, because you can put, say for example, your squat in full body 1, your hip thrust in full body 2, and maybe your RDL in full body 3. So you've got all 3, you know, compound main leg exercises there at the beginning. And then you can also put like a unilateral in one, an isolation in one, like a, I don't know, a machine in one. And then you've got, you know, like 2 really good exercises for legs 3 times a week. So you're still getting 6 like leg exercises across just going to the gym 3 times, or working out from home 3 times. And you can do the same with your upper body as well. So it's really good to just try and, you know, like, be strategic about your workouts rather than just doing random stuff that you've seen online, because it's something that might have worked for one person, might not work for you. The best workouts for you are the ones that you feel comfortable with, that you feel confident doing and know that your form is good, and the ones that you enjoy. At the end of the day, the best workout, the best machine, the best split is the one that you're actually going to do. Because if you don't like your split, you don't like your workouts, you will get bored of them and you will stop going and you'll give up. Whereas if you actually enjoy it and you like it, you're going to keep wanting to go and do it because you get, you know, a good time. So just try and figure out what works. It took me a few years to figure out what I actually like doing. When I finally stopped just copying random people online and actually learned what worked for me and started learning about things, watching YouTube videos on it, you know, educating myself, that's when I finally started to figure out what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. And that, you know, really made a difference for me. So try and figure out what works for you. I did put up a TikTok today about how to structure a glute workout as well, and put some different exercise options. I'll maybe put the link to that video below, so that you can, you know, have a look at that as well. But I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll catch up with you next Sunday. And as always, thank you so much for watching.
To grieve, full speed, se voler Paris.